I grew up in a loving family with two parents and an older brother. We lived in a cozy house in the suburbs, and my childhood was filled with happy memories. However, there was always something that felt off. My parents would occasionally argue in hushed tones, and my brother would sometimes act strangely. One day, when I was 16, I stumbled upon an old trunk in our attic. Inside, I found a stack of letters addressed to my mother, but the return address was from a woman I had never heard of. Curiosity got the best of me, and I began reading the letters. The letters revealed a shocking truth: my mother had a sister who had been estranged from the family for decades. The sister, named Sarah, had been involved in some shady dealings and had hurt my mother deeply. I felt like my whole world had been turned upside down. Why had my parents kept this secret from me? I decided to confront my mother, but she just brushed it off, telling me it was a long time ago and not to worry about it. But I couldn't shake off the feeling that there was more to the story. I started digging deeper, and what I found changed everything. I couldn't shake off the feeling that my mother was hiding something from me. I decided to investigate further and started by asking my brother if he knew anything about our Aunt Sarah. He seemed hesitant to talk about it, but eventually revealed that he had met Sarah a few times when he was younger. My brother told me that Sarah was involved in some shady business dealings and had been in trouble with the law. He also mentioned that our grandfather had been estranged from Sarah for many years, but had recently reconnected with her before he passed away. I was determined to learn more about Sarah and our family's past. I started by searching online for any information about her, but found nothing. I then decided to visit our local library to see if they had any records or newspapers from the time period when Sarah was involved in the shady dealings. After hours of searching, I finally found an old newspaper article about a woman named Sarah who had been arrested for fraud. The article mentioned that she had been involved in a Ponzi scheme and had swindled several people out of their life savings. I felt a mix of emotions: shock, anger, and sadness. I couldn't believe that my own family member had been involved in such a terrible thing. I wondered how our grandfather had been able to forgive her and reconnect with her after all those years. I left the library with more questions than answers. I knew I had to confront my mother again and demand the truth. I confronted my mother, and this time, she couldn't avoid the truth. She broke down and told me everything. Our Aunt Sarah had been involved in a Ponzi scheme, but it was more complicated than that. Our grandfather had been involved too, and had even invested some of our family's money in the scheme. When the scheme collapsed, our family lost a lot of money, and our grandfather was devastated. He had always felt guilty for getting involved and for not being able to protect our family's finances. That's why he had reconnected with Sarah before he passed away, to try to make amends. But that's not all. Our mother had been keeping another secret. She had been in contact with Sarah all these years, and had even been sending her money to help her get back on her feet. My brother and I were shocked. We couldn't believe that our mother had been keeping this from us. We were all upset, but we tried to understand our mother's perspective. She had been trying to protect us from the truth, but in doing so, she had hurt us even more. We realized that our family's history was complex and messy, but we needed to face it head-on. We decided to meet with Sarah, to confront her and to try to understand her perspective. It was a difficult decision, but we knew it was necessary. We needed to close this chapter of our family's history and move on. We met with Sarah at a small cafe. She looked older and worn out, but still had a hint of the charm and charisma that had gotten her into trouble all those years ago. We were nervous, but determined to confront her and get some answers. Sarah apologized for her past actions and explained that she had been desperate and greedy. She had never meant to hurt our family, but she had been caught up in the thrill of making easy money. She told us that she had been struggling to make ends meet since the scheme collapsed and that our mother's help had been a lifeline. We listened, and for the first time, we saw Sarah as a human being, not just a villain. We realized that she had made mistakes, but she was trying to make amends. We forgave her, and we started to rebuild our relationship. But just as we thought we were closing the chapter on our family's past, another bombshell dropped. Sarah revealed that our grandfather had left her a large sum of money in his will, money that our family desperately needed. We were torn between our loyalty to our family and our newfound understanding of Sarah. We were shocked and torn. On one hand, our family desperately needed the money. On the other hand, we couldn't just take it from Sarah after everything she had been through. We decided to have a family meeting to discuss what to do. After hours of discussion, we came to a decision. We would accept the money, but only if Sarah agreed to use some of it to make amends for her past mistakes. We wanted her to use the money to help others who had been affected by her scheme. Sarah agreed, and we worked together to come up with a plan. We used the money to start a foundation that helped people who had been victims of fraud. Sarah became involved in the foundation and used her experience to help others. In the end, we learned that forgiveness and second chances can be powerful tools for healing and growth. Our family's history was still complex and messy, but we had found a way to turn it into something positive. As I looked back on everything that had happened, I realized that uncovering the truth about our family's past had been the best thing that could have happened to us. It had brought us closer together and had given us a new appreciation for the importance of honesty and forgiveness. And so, our family's story came full circle. We had faced our demons and had come out stronger on the other side.